Nick Crudisell is VA Salem. Thank you.
Thank you. Victoria Newman.
Hi, everyone present. My name is Victoria Newman. I am a community advocate for brain injury and people with disability. I have an organization called Valley Disability Support. I also do support meetings for people with brain injury and help with empowerment and advocacy. I am a survivor, and a special designee is my role. And I represent the Northern Virginia and Northwest Virginia area.
Thank you. Patrick Sandus.
Present. So I'm Patrick Sandus. I'm a professor at UVA. I'm specifically at the School of Commerce. I've been here for more than 15 years. I'm a member at large, I believe, and I am a brain injury survivor. I was in a bicycle accident and suffered a severe traumatic brain injury almost 11 years ago.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Maria Aaltonen.
Hi, I'm here, Maria Aaltonen. I'm the Rape Prevention Education Director with the Virginia Department of Health.
Thank you. Gail Brunk.
Hi, I'm Gail Brunk. I'm the Executive Director for Valley Associates for Independent Living in Harrisonburg, and I'm currently the President for the Virginia Association of Centers for Independent Living, and I sit on the council representing the 17 centers for independent living that serve the Commonwealth.
Thank you. Elizabeth Horn.
There we go. Hello, everyone. I am Elizabeth Horn, and I'm the designee for the Disability Law Center of Virginia, which is Virginia's designated protection and advocacy agency for individuals with disabilities. I also have a long history of professional involvement with brain injury. And more recently, my nephew here in Richmond sustained a very severe traumatic brain injury. And also my sister just this past summer sustained a very severe concussion, and I serve as caregivers for both of them.
Thank you. Deborah Johnson.
Hi, I'm Deborah Johnson. I'm an advisory member representing the Virginia Department of Education. I'm a specialist at the department in the Office of Special Education Instructional Services for intellectual disability and traumatic brain injury.
Thank you. Amal Carmaker.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Amol Karmarkar. I'm a faculty member in Virginia Commonwealth University, as well as affiliated with the Center for Rehabilitation Sciences and Engineering, and with the Sheltering Arms Institute. So I'm serving as a member on this council. Thank you.
Thank you. Ron Seal.
Hi, I'm Ron Seal. I'm project director of the TBI model system at VCU. I'm also executive director of the Center for Rehabilitation Science and Engineering, and I've been doing brain injury care for a while, doing research for about 27 years, and here to help in any way I can.
Thank you. Kevin Kojal.
Good afternoon, everyone. Kevin Kojal. I'm Director of Independent Living at the Department for Aging and Rehabilitative Services, and I'm an advisory member of the council.
Thanks. Joni Latimer.
Joni is running late today. She should be here in a little bit.
Okay. Erica Lawhorn.
Eric will not be here today.
Okay. Chris Miller.
Hi, I'm Chris Miller. I'm Director of the Brain Injury Services Coordination Unit at DARS.
Terry Morgan.
Terry Morgan will not be here today.
Susan Moon.
Yeah, hey, hi, good afternoon, everyone. So I am Susan Moon. I am the Director for the Office of Integrated Health at the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services, DBHDS. I serve as the representative from DBHDS to the council. I am currently serving the council as chair for the nominations committee. I am a registered nurse, and I have some professional experience supporting folks with traumatic brain injuries in the community in another life many years ago in New England, for quite a while, actually. So looking forward to today's meeting.
Thank you. Mark Murphy.
My name is Mark Murphy. I'm the Health Services Director for the Department of Juvenile Justice, and I am here representing the agency.
Thank you. Maria Stransky.
Hello, I'm Maria Stronsky, and I represent the Department of Corrections, where I work in mental health services.
Thank you. Barbara Seymour. Barbara, you're
Okay,
still
hi.
on mute.
Yeah, I was hitting the wrong mute button. Anyway, Barbara Seymour, present. I am a advisory member of the council, and I represent the state Medicaid, Department of Medical Assistance Services. I'm a social worker, case manager, wear many hats at the agency, but one of them is the subject matter expert for brain injury, and to help support the council and advocate for what information the council provides and bring it back to our state agency. And we continue to work on the same task many, many years. I've been with the agency for 27 years. So.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Marcia DuBois.
Hi, I'm Marcia Dubois. I'm Deputy Commissioner for the Division for Community Living at the Department for Aging and Rehabilitative Services, or DARS.
Excellent, thank you. Is Carolyn Turner here today?
I don't see her.
Okay.
Carolyn can't be here today. She may join us in a little while.
Okay. Wanda Allen?
I don't believe she's here either.
Okay. Amy Smith?
Hello, everyone. My name is Amy Smith, and I am the clinical liaison at the Brain Injury Association of Virginia. And I'm attending today because I'm presenting.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. And Donna Cantrell.
My name is Donna Cantrell. I am with the Department for Aging and Rehabilitative Services, and I am staff to council.
Excellent. And Donna, have I missed anyone on the roll call?
Not that I can see. I think we've got everybody.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your patience. Yes.
Hi, you forgot me.
Oh,
George
I'm sorry,
Williamson, Dementia Services Coordinator with the Department for Aging and Rehabilitative Services, and excuse me, advisory member of the council.
Excellent. Sorry about that, George. I had your name buried beneath another one. Well, thank you. And thank you all for dealing with my terrible pronunciation of last names. I do try though. Okay, so I can verify, I believe that we do have quorum. Is that correct, Donna? All right.
Yes,
so
we have a quorum.
Before we begin business, let's just review a couple of helpful hints for an online meeting. So the first is for us all to keep our microphones muted for the duration of the meeting, except for when you are speaking. And if you're able, you're welcome to keep your video on, although we know that at times there may be necessary distractions or things that you need to prevent us from seeing, and we want to respect your privacy. Number two, if you have a contribution to make during a discussion period, please use the hand raising icon. If you toggle down to the bottom right-hand side of your screen and you click on reactions, you can raise your hand. And that will actually place your Hollywood Square image up at the top so we know who to call on. So that's generally really helpful for us. Number 3, we're going to take 2 to 3 very brief breaks of about 10 minutes. And these are designed to give you space to reflect, for discussion points to settle in, and for you also to attend to any personal needs that you have during that time. And then number 4, finally, but very importantly, please be mindful of speaking slowly and clearly and using plain language that is as jargon-free as possible. So I know many folks are steeped in medical terminology, but if you can break that down for the rest of us, that would be very helpful. And this also includes trying not to overuse acronyms that others might not be familiar with. So the first thing that we're going to do is to review the proposed agenda. What I'd like to invite are any changes to the proposed agenda. If you have a change, please raise your hand using the icon.
I'm raising my hand, but I don't know that anybody's seeing it.
It just popped up. Go ahead, Barbara.
Okay, this is Barbara. One of the things I just wanted to add before we got too far along is to also please say your name before you speak so we know exactly who's talking. I know with the Zoom, you know, it kind of tells you, but it still would be helpful, I think, to know just to state your name before you make your point.
Thank you. Jason.
Yeah, Barbara, I think you might have been clapping and not raising your hand. Just FYI, there's a clapping emoji that looks like raising your hand. And then there's a raising your hand little button that you have to hit. So just FYI.
She may prefer to clap than raise her hand. We have to respect that.
There's also fireworks. Okay. Any proposed changes to the agenda? Not seeing any. Jason, I think you have to unraise your hand now.
Sorry.
Or perhaps Donna clicks that. There we go. Okay, so since we have no proposed changes to the agenda, it's approved by acclamation, so we do not need to vote on it. The next order of business is to review the previous meeting minutes, and Donna sent those out to us. Those are the meeting minutes from October 22nd, 2021. Barbara, do you have a proposed change to the meeting minutes? You are on mute. You're still on mute.
There we go.
There we go.
On page 3, I know they're not numbered, but under, let's see, council member professional development. And then when you go down to the after some discussion, council determined that to be most effective and engaging. And then there's 2 big black bullets. On the second bullet that says in meeting, the second bullet in the in meeting bullet and the first bullet in the post meeting are very similar. And I thought that one of those should be addressed in the pre-meeting. I thought we talked about sending any information ahead of time so we can review it ahead of time. You know, just to have like any handouts, whatever, prior to the presentation. And I didn't know if we needed to add that back.
Barbara, do you see under pre-meeting learning, it says
Yeah.
members agreed that having the opportunity to engage in self-directed learning prior.
Right.
Are you asking us to spell that out and describe what that means? Or is the broadness, are you feeling like that's too vague?
Well, does that include making sure we have resources available, not maybe self-educating, but because I would take that as meaning resources that you have that could get yourself familiarized, whatever the topic is. But what I'm talking about is literally just like Donna sends the agenda and everything else ahead of time. So if we're going to have a professional development presentation, we need to have that ahead of time, just like she did with this presentation we're going to have today.
Yeah.
But I thought that was specifically, and I think it was me that suggested it in the meeting last time, but I didn't see it really spelled out here. But if that's what
we can spell that out, just so you know, Barbara, the executive committee did meet and we are on the same page as you. That was our same understanding. So I think what we could do is amend the language in the first sub-bullet or the bullet under pre-meeting learning to spell out that this is self-directed learning with resources provided by council leadership in accessible formats.
Yeah, with resources related to whatever that engagement is going to be with our learning. That's fine.
Are there any other proposed changes? Okay, Donna, you might need to help me with the with how this vote would go. I believe what we need to do is for someone to motion in support of the proposed change. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Could I have a motion in support for the proposed change to the bullet under pre-meeting learning that will specify how self-directed learning will be delivered and in an accessible format by council leadership to members prior to the neurobehavioral presentation?
Sarah, this is Chris Miller. It actually be to approve the minutes with that change.
Okay, so motion to approve the minutes with the suggested change.
Monique, I motion to approve the minutes.
Monique has the motion and Mike seconded the motion. Thank you. All right, so what we need to do is to go through very quickly and do a roll call vote. I'm going to say your first name and the first letter of your last name so that I don't do what I did before. And then you're going to indicate yay, nay, or abstain. So if you feel that there's a conflict of interest, you would abstain from voting. All right, let me pull this up. Monique.
Yay.
Mike P.
Yes.
Kara B.
Yay.
Tim W.
Yay.
Jason Y.
Yay.
Sandy.
Yay.
Kelly.
Yay.
John R.
Yay.
Amber.
Yay.
Cindy J.
Yay.
Nick R.
Yeah.
Victoria N.
Yay.
Patrick S.
Yay.
Maria A.
Yay.
Gail B.
Yes.
Elizabeth H.
Yay.
Deborah J.
Yay.
Amal K.
Yes.
Ron S.
Only Amal or Ron can vote, not both of them.
Okay.
I'll be our voting person. Thanks.
Okay. Kevin K.
Yay.
Let's see, is Erica L here? Not, don't, Chris M.
Yay.
Has Terry Morgan arrived?
No.
No. Susan M.
Yay.
Mark M.
Yay.
Maria S.
Yay.
Barbara
Yay.
and George W.
Yay.
And my vote is also a yay. The meeting minutes carry. All right. Next on our docket are 3 public comments, which are going to be read aloud by Donna Cantrell. It's worth noting that at least 2 of the 3 commenters were intending to view this live, but will have the opportunity to view following the meeting when it's posted. Donna?
Okay, I'm going to read these in the order that I received them. They came in via email. This one is from Elizabeth K. She says, "Good afternoon. Lately, I have been finding out about the Virginia Brain Injury Council. I'm here as a person who's had a series of acquired brain injuries, attending this meeting for the first time. I'm almost bursting at the seams to say how hugely positive and meaningful this is. The Brain Injury Council's efforts toward better and more support for survivors of TBI, even with the council's current emphasis, domestic violence and TBI, and on housing, not to mention other issues like neurobehavioral, legislative, grant activities, and more. Y'all might not realize how much this is inspiring and energizing. Here's the thing. You can invest in your brain so much beyond your biggest dreams, but that investment is never guaranteed, period. That investment can disappear in an instant with a brain injury. And I did invest in my brain. I worked my own way through one of the most competitive universities and later went back for a double major in grad school. Next, multiple TBI. Now I can't keep a job. During my process, these days of trying to find out how far I can get, neurobehaviorally and more, the apparent loss is mind-boggling. But I'm one of the lucky ones. Tapping into SSDI, housing, thank you, Arlington County, and resourcefulness have helped me big time. Yet in many other ways, I'm starving for help. Meanwhile, people with ABI are all around struggling and underserved. Note, there is a great deal more to be accomplished and in issues that have barely been touched. Plus, what the Brain Injury Council is doing is not only underreported, it is pivotal and has the potential to be life-changing. Please continue to keep up to date and keep going. Signed, Elizabeth K. Next, we have a statement from Ken Israel. Ken writes, "Dear members of council, I'm participating in today's meeting as a TBI survivor who is struggling to survive with TBI. Here is who I was. I lived in DC and worked as a writer at Health and Human Services, writing about public and clinical health. With my degree in creative writing, I was also revising a novel and scratching out short stories. I loved hiking Great Falls and was an avid traveler, most recently traveling across Iceland. On June 30th, 2019, I struck my head on a wooden beam outside my basement apartment and suffered a traumatic brain injury. Unfortunately, the providers to whom I was referred were not knowledgeable about TBIs. I developed post-concussion syndrome. My symptoms have persisted for 2.5 years. Vision issues, vertigo, exercise intolerance, debilitating headaches. I must limit my time in bright sunlight or bright rooms. I've been unable to work. Travel is out of the question. Grocery shopping is difficult. I can't go for walks. I eventually found the right treatment team, and today I have a good recovery protocol. I'm grieving the loss of who I was and embracing a new life, but it can't heal while the life I'm left with has been fundamentally destabilized by a lack of basic necessities like nutrition, transportation, and housing. A year ago, I lost access to affordable housing in DC, and my housing situation here in Virginia is precarious. I can't get food or transportation assistance. There is a dire need in Virginia to expand these services, along with case management for TBI survivors. People like me don't have the physical resources to move forward in recovery and fight tooth and nail just to get by. And being out on the street with a TBI terrifies me. I'd also like to stress the need for an information campaign to empower hospitals and doctors, because ER doctors and the neurologists they refer TBI patients to simply do not have correct, useful knowledge of how to treat TBIs. These are dedicated healthcare professionals, as the past 2 years have proven out. They just need better tools. At the very least, hospitals must be able to refer TBI survivors to the appropriate providers and community resources. Case management and a community of survivors help us organize, make appointments, find the right treatment team, and get by while we're confused and in pain. Timely, quality treatment makes all the difference. It's worth the expense to keep TBIs from turning into chronic disability afflicting over 300,000 Virginians. Thank you for letting me share my experience today. Ken Israel. And our last public comment comes from Carlos Souls. Carlos says, good afternoon and buenas tardes a todos. Today is an important day for me. 7 years ago, I had an ischemic stroke that took away my ability to effectively communicate, and today I can use my voice again. I'll tell you about my experience with brain injury and what survivors like me need. I always led a dynamic life. As a multilingual, multicultural community organizer and trainer, I help nonprofits with capacity building, leadership development, conflict management, and mentoring all over the world and in the United States and its territories and the Washington metropolitan area. My efforts focused on minority public health, including in the Peace Corps, as HIV, STI, and TB prevention, and serving on the National Council of La Raza, now Unidas US. I worked for the DHHS doing capacity building for community-based organizations. I developed a bilingual glossary of HIV prevention terminology. I also taught salsa and merengue at the University of Virginia. My work and my devotion to my wife and 3 children took me to East Africa to help in youth entrepreneurship. In 2014, when I returned to work from the school for the School of Public Health at George Washington University, my life changed. 2 weeks into the job and without health insurance, I suffered a stroke at 1 a.m. I lay in my bed for 8 hours waiting for help. My 2 sons, aged 5 and 3, lay on my chest telling me everything will be all right. The stroke affected the left hemisphere of my brain. I had confusion and memory issues, and I developed a stutter. As a successful communicator, I conducted my advocacy work in English, Spanish, French, Finnish, and Swahili, among other languages. I lost all of these abilities. I was a Spanish spokesperson and media director of a US presidential candidate, and I did a gala at the Organization of American States for a US president. I was a top fundraiser. Unfortunately, I was not given the resources that I needed. The imaging studies, neurologists, therapists, psychiatrists, and other providers that would eventually show me a path back to life. I was left on my own for 6 years. I suffered tremendous depression, and my marriage did not survive the strain. After 6 years, through a series of referrals, I put together a successful team of providers and services, and I began to rebuild my life through various therapies, nutrition, meditation, and prayer. I thought the public health system I'd fought so hard for would be there to break my fall. Instead, I fell through the cracks. If this could happen to a highly educated, high-performing individual who worked in public health, what chance does the average survivor have? Today, nearly 300,000 Virginians are disabled because of traumatic brain injury and stroke. I was going to run for office in Arlington and move up. I did the Sorensen Political Training Institute in 2006, and I helped Latinos and minorities across the US and its territories. Here's what we need. 1, we need more resources for nonprofits to achieve statewide coverage for TBI survivors so nobody is left behind in the Commonwealth of Virginia. We need minorities, Latinx, African Americans, and Native Americans in the decision-making process. And we need a statewide campaign to inform lawmakers and the public about traumatic brain injury, because we, like you, survivors, want to do our parts to continue to make this country a great place to live and raise our families. We also need Medicaid for all in Virginia. I make $15 an hour as a person with a disability. I need rental assistance and help paying my medical bills and maintaining a job in these challenging times, and many other things to support myself. The sad thing is, the Social Security Administration has not updated its guidance for people like me to apply for disability. I have to make less than $100 to qualify for Social Security, or I need to be working 20 hours or less to get access to the much needed assistance. It's a good reminder of the work that we need to do to help change the system to support us. And thank you for letting me be here and listening to our stories. We will see you again as much as needed. Have a blessed afternoon. Carlos Souls. That was the last public comment.
Thank you, Donna. I'd like to publicly thank Elizabeth Kay, Kent Israel, and Carlos Sauls for your very thoughtful and vulnerable and detailed accounts. Jason, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was just, those were fantastic. And, you know, I've been on council for a while, and most of the time public comment is a big fat zero. So I was just curious, like how we got 3 so fantastic public comments for this meeting.
You can thank fellow council member Victoria Newman. She has a network in her area, and all 3 of those came from her colleagues.
Well, Victoria, thank you. And I know it's a goal of this council to increase survivor representation on the council. And, you know, those are 3 very well-informed opinions there. And I don't know what our slate is and when we have to fill folks, but they might be folks that we want to consider adding on at some point.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. They are all very impressive individuals, and it has been a pleasure getting to know them and helping to support them through their process.
Jason, you spoke the same words I was thinking about recruiting potential board members, council members. Thank you. Okay, at this point, we're going to segue to our professional development opportunity, which is a TBI and domestic violence presentation. We've already sort of introduced briefly Maria and Amy, but just by way of reminder, Maria is the Injury and Violence Prevention Supervisor at the Virginia Department of Health, and Amy is Clinical Liaison with the Brain Injury Association of Virginia. And these groups have been working on a screening project related to the intersection of domestic violence and traumatic brain injury. So I'll go ahead now and turn this over to Maria and Amy, just so that everyone is aware of the timing. We'll have about 30 minutes for this presentation, and then we will take a 10-minute break. Okay, over to you all.
All right, thank you, Kara. You gave us a great introduction here. Amy and I are super happy to be with you all today to talk about this project that we have going. The Screen and Intervene project has been around for 1 year. So we will be talking about what the project is and kind of what the findings were from the first year. And we're moving into year 2 now. So we'll kind of talk about some things at the end that are upcoming. We recently provided a training at the Brain Injury Association of Virginia's conference. And from that realized that we want to be making more efforts to get information about this project out to whoever we can. And so as a member of the council, I thought it would be a great opportunity to talk to the folks that are here today about the great work that we're doing. So Amy, are you advancing the slides, or Kara? Oh, Donna. Okay, you can move us along. Also, I meant to mention that we will have a time for questions at the end. So if things are coming up for you, if you'll just hold those till the end of the presentation, and then feel free to ask away. Some acronyms you may encounter within this presentation. That should say IPV, which just stands for Intimate Partner Violence. DV, which is domestic violence, and then TBI, traumatic brain injury. So what is the Screen and Intervene project? So I guess a little over a year ago, the Virginia Department of Health was connected with the Brain Injury Association of Virginia, and we realized that both of us were doing a lot of work and trying to make a lot of effort around the overlap between domestic violence and brain injury, and that both of us were kind of working, going down separate roads, and we wanted to bring together a partnership to have a collaborative effort at approaching, this topic statewide. And we'll kind of get into more specifics about the project as we go. We have started off with a few programs that we've been working with, but the long-term goal is to eventually implement a statewide screening program for brain injury. So that is what we are working towards. And what you can see here in the corner of your screen is a map. And I don't see them. Amy, maybe you can speak to this real quick. We did have a map that kind of identified where the current programs we're working with already are, but I can't see that on this map. Amy?
Yes, sorry about that. This is not the final version of the presentation, but we have partnerships currently in Richmond and the Tri-Cities area, in Roanoke, Wytheville, Culpeper, Hampton Roads, and we are working on establishing a partnership in the Lexington area.
Great. All right, so just to kind of start us off, we'd like to make sure that everyone has, just a basic understanding of intimate partner violence before we move into talking about the nuances of the project. So a definition of intimate partner violence that we like to use is a pattern of assaultive and coercive behaviors that may include inflicted physical injury, psychological abuse, sexual assault, isolation, stalking, deprivation, intimidation, and threats. And the important thing to note about intimate partner violence that separates it from community violence or other forms of violence are that this is a pattern of behaviors that are going on between two folks. So it is not a one-time incident. It's not one thing that happens. Things may start off with verbal abuse and psychological abuse, and that may over time escalate to isolation, depriving people of things, but there are patterns that are going on in the relationship. These behaviors are perpetrated by someone who is, was, or wishes to be involved in an intimate or dating relationship and aims at establishing control, power and control from one partner over another. And so we also like to take a second to just talk about this myth of mutual abuse. I know all of us probably know someone that has been in an abusive relationship, and oftentimes we'll hear people say, oh, I don't even want to hear about it anymore. They're both doing this, that, and the third. They, are both crazy. They're both, we hear all of this kind of feedback, right? So people want to stay out of these type of situations. But the important thing to understand is that two people can have unhealthy behaviors. Two people can have abusive behaviors. Two people can both cause each other physical harm, right? But one person in the relationship is really creating that system of power and control, and one person is trying to figure out how to survive in that context, right? And we do a whole training that really goes into this to really get folks to understand this more, and hopefully at another date we can kind of do a longer training. But we just like to acknowledge that, in moving forward. Just to give a little idea of what intimate partner violence looks like, 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men will experience intimate partner violence in their lifetime. Previous strangulation increases the likeliness for homicide by 750%. This one is huge, and we will get to a little later in the presentation about why this is so significant and how it impacts folks with brain injury. 20 people per minute are victims of physical violence by an intimate partner in the US. In Virginia, Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to be killed by an intimate partner. And let me see, I can't see the ones on the right. Okay. 1 in 3 women killed in the US are at the hands of an intimate partner. The presence of a gun in an intimate partner violence situation increases the risk of homicide for women by 500%. The leading cause of death among pregnant women is homicide by intimate partner, and 47% of women killed by their intimate partners have been seen by a healthcare provider in the year prior to their deaths. And so this last statistic really kind of gets at the heart of why we are doing the work that we're doing. So implementing screening either around brain injury or around intimate partner violence are really key to identifying folks as soon as we can and getting folks connected to the right supports. You can advance this. Amy, I think this is you.
There it is. So now that we've talked a little bit about what domestic and intimate partner violence looks like, I wanted to dive deeper into how it intersects with brain injury and what we're currently doing with the Screen and Intervene project. And so to start off with, here's a few statistics that are demonstrating the prevalence of intimate partner violence and the prevalence of brain injury caused by intimate partner violence. And so intimate partner violence, it results in around 2 million injuries every year. And of those, only 1% or less than 10,000 victims are appropriately identified by the healthcare system. And as many as 23 million women in the US who have experienced intimate partner violence also live with brain injury. The rates of women who are seen in the emergency room or in a shelter are between 30 and 74%. And most of these brain injuries occur from a direct blow to the head or from strangulation. And 81% of 115 patients reported loss of consciousness at the time of domestic assault, and only 21% sought medical help. Why that's important is that loss of consciousness is a big indicator that there was a brain injury that occurred at the time of the assault. And so we know that many people, and especially women, are injured through IPV and they don't always seek medical attention. And in the instance of domestic violence, injuries to the head, face, and neck are more common than injuries to other body parts. And the types of abuse that can lead to brain injury include hitting, shoving, slapping, pushing, and strangulation. And so we have identified that because of all of this, it's brain injury among this population is likely underreported. And for a little more background, this is a chart summarizing some previous research that has been done to identify the presence of brain injury in people who've gone through intimate partner violence. And it's just here to demonstrate the prevalence of brain injury among female survivors of domestic violence. So to develop this project, we started off with all of this information that we knew, and we formed a partnership with the Virginia Department of Health. And from there, we did some targeted outreach to community organizations that were providing services to IPV survivors. In our first year of the project, we teamed up with organizations in Richmond and Hampton Roads and Roanoke, and we paired them with community brain injury service providers in their area. So that's the state-funded brain injury programs. And from there, we developed and provided training to all of those participating in the project about brain injury and its intersection with domestic violence, and how to screen for brain injury, and how to work with someone who has had a brain injury, to those people who are working with the domestic violence survivors. And we also provided some training to the community brain injury programs about trauma-informed care, and also that intersection between these two topics. And so we've developed a lot of resources and created an online resource library for those who are participating in the project. And once all of the training was completed by those who are going to be doing the screening, the staff who were working in a lot of different areas, so within the shelters, as victim advocates in the court system, in housing, and in counseling services, they used the HELPS screening tool to identify possible brain injury in their clients. And so after doing the screening and educating clients, if they were interested and wanted to be referred for services or wanted to try to get a diagnosis of brain injury, they were referred to the community brain injury program or referred to medical professionals to get the help that they wanted or needed. And we also collected all of this screening data and demographic information about those who we were screening.
All right, so Lauren Yerkes, who's the epidemiologist for the Injury and Violence Prevention Program at Virginia Department of Health on our team, she compiled the data that Amy was just referring to that we've collected from year one. And so we just wanted to share some of kind of the highlights from that. Of the 65 clients with complete data, some of the socio-demographic information that we received, you can see here on the screen. So kind of some of the ones that stand out, 83% identified as female, 46% had an income less than $20,000. 52% were between the ages of 26 and 45. 37% were unemployed or not able to work or retired. And 58% of those folks were white, non-Hispanic identifying. Next slide. Okay. 3/4, so 75% of the clients reported being hit in the head or strangled. Of these 49 clients, 51% of head injuries were due to an assault or fight. And you can see here kind of the different options that we had. Okay, and of those clients, the clients that we had that were hit in the head, choked, or strangled, almost 1 out of 4 clients were hit, choked, or strangled more than 6 times, which is obviously pretty significant. %45 of clients who were hit in the head, choked, or strangled had their injury happen within the past 12 months. And of the clients who were hit in the head, choked, or strangled, 71% reported having a period of feeling dazed and confused after the injury. 61% reported having a period of blacking out after their injury, and 53% went to the emergency room, the hospital, or saw a doctor for their injury. Over 6 out of 10 clients who were hit in the head, choked, or strangled reported problems in their daily life as a result of their injury. Clients most frequently reported these current and past symptoms. So we have, physical responses. 76% had headaches, 65% experienced dizziness, cognitive related issues, problems focusing or concentrating, 71%. And then 61% of folks had problems remembering. And emotional responses, 71% reported feeling irritable or impatient, and 71% reported feeling confused.
And so overall, 76% of clients who were hit in the head, choked, or strangled did screen positive for potential brain injury. And of the 37 clients who screened positive for potential brain injury, 30% were referred to their local brain injury program, and 19% were referred to a medical professional. And down below, you can see that there were a couple of other things that they were provided with. So they were educated about screening, educated about brain injury, and they could also be referred to BIAV if needed. Also of note, we we're able to provide training and education that I was talking about earlier to about 40 staff members throughout the state of Virginia. So they were trained about brain injury and how to screen for it. And we are anticipating that we'll be training about 40 more people this year. And we also have identified, so it can be hard to identify once clients are referred to the brain injury program, sometimes where they're being referred from, if the person who is a staff member at the domestic violence agency did not reach out directly to the case manager. But we think that about 10 to 15 individuals were taken into case management throughout the state of Virginia at state-funded brain injury programs. And we also did hear recently from a case manager at one of the state-funded brain injury programs about a client that she had been working with as a result of a referral through this project. And she'd been working on getting a court case dismissed for them for about 6 months because she felt that they were being wrongly prosecuted due to their brain injury. And after getting a continuance from the judge last year, she took the client to medical appointments. She had them go through a neuropsychological evaluation and requested other records. And when they went to court this week with all of that documentation, the case manager was able to get that case dismissed and was told by the client's attorney that he could not have done that without her help. So that is just some of the things that we are starting to hear that have come out of this project. And we're hoping that we're going to hear many more stories like this in the future. And lastly, I did want to go over our plans for the future of this project. So we've transitioned into the second year, as Maria said, and we're currently expanding and partnering with many new programs in new areas of the state. And we're hoping to screen and provide education and resources to a lot more people. And we are investigating the possibility of intervening earlier, so screening for brain injury before people are coming to domestic violence programs and within more focused populations. And we are also hoping that we can maybe start some reciprocal screening with some of our brain injury community partners and having them do screening for intimate partner violence within the clients that they are serving, because we know that that is happening there as well. So, brain injury is happening within the domestic violence population, and people who have brain injuries already are also likely going through domestic violence situations. So thank you guys for listening to our presentation, and I wanted to open it up for questions if anyone has any questions.
And thank you both for a really fascinating and important and timely contribution. I'll start out just with a question that I had jotted down. I was just curious about the resources that you might need to sustain this program over time. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So I can at least speak from my end, and then Amy might have some things to add from BIAV's. And so the Virginia Department of Health funds this project. So, the way any kind of project runs, Amy and Ann and the folks at BIAV each year kind of let us know what they need to work on the goals that we've set for that year. And then we provide the support for that. So as we keep moving through the years, I anticipate that work will really continue to grow, and we're hoping to spread statewide. And, VDH also has a number of other projects on our team that we run. So I imagine at some point we would need to be looking at, additional resources, funding opportunities to really cover the breadth of where we want to see this project go. So we will obviously hopefully continue to come back with other updates or needs or, things we want folks to be aware of. So from our end, that's kind of where things are going. But for now, we seem to be in a good place.
Yes, and just from our end, we see that most of this is based on people just being aware of this and being educated about brain injury and intimate partner violence. And so, we're hoping that as we go through these years of developing materials and resources, we can start solidifying what is the most important things that people need to know and need available so that they can start screening whenever they want to.
Yeah. And Kara, one other thing that I wanted to add, kind of to go away after funding doesn't happen. So Amy and I are doing a lot of work to really try to get the programs involved to institutionalize these screening tools and also the relationships with their local brain injury centers. So the funding is really to help folks get started because they're devoting a lot of time to learning, training staff, figuring out the screening, so they're having to take extra time to do those things, but we're really hoping that that just becomes a normal part of their practice. And so when new people come on, it's much more minimal. One person can kind of say, oh, this is our practice, this is our policy, this is the folks we work with that you would contact at the Brain Injury Center, and that it just becomes a part of their normal practice so that we're not funding the same programs year after year, so that after a few years we can move to another set of programs and then another set of programs. And then, like I mentioned, eventually have a statewide effort where everyone is kind of participating in this normal practice.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I see some hands up, and Donna has shared that we have Jason and then Chris and then Victoria. So if you'd all like to ask your questions in that order, go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, Amy, I was really, you talked about the screening that's going on at the domestic violence programs that you're partnering with, and really interested in the screening potential for brain injury providers to screen for domestic violence on our end. We've done that with a couple other issues in the past, most recently kind of Medicaid waiver eligibility. And it's fairly easy because we all use the same client management system. And if we have a screening tool in there to put it within our intake procedures so that all the programs could implement it. So that hit me and I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, we'll totally be doing that. So I'm interested in hearing more about that when you guys kind of get to that point in the project.
And Jason, we would obviously love to have a conversation with you. I think that's the great thing that comes out of starting projects is, our initial intention was only focused on, doing the brain injury screenings and domestic violence programs. And then I think, and, Amy can speak to this, we saw a lot of excitement from the brain injury centers. They were asking for, trauma-informed care training and, really showing an interest. And we realized, at some point, like, why aren't we doing this both ways to where brain injury centers are screening for domestic violence? And, in my experience working in domestic violence programs, a lot of the times we have clients that don't show, they don't answer the phone, they might be in a bad mood when they come in, are evasive. There are all these behaviors we see from the patient population that we work with. And we'll be like, oh, I offered that person everything. Why wouldn't they come? I was so nice to them. Why were they so nasty to me? We, as providers, come up with all these responses to their behaviors, right? And so we don't often think of what might be going on with someone that might have them responding in those types of ways, or real reasons for concern as to why someone might come today, not come for 3 more times, then pop back up, So screening for intimate partner violence, which could be a likely thing that's actually going on to cause that erratic or misunderstood behavior, would instantly be explained. And then we could actually provide real support instead of just saying, okay, we've tried to work with this person, we've done everything, it's on them now. I've seen that a million times in my work and in my experience. And so I think making, more concrete efforts at really addressing some of that stuff to find out what's going on with people. So we would love to talk to you, Jason, and any other folks that are interested in implementing intimate partner violence screening in their practice as well.
Thanks. We have regular provider alliance provider meetings, and I think it would be great if we could have you guys come on to one of those, invite you to one of those, talk about what you're doing. I know many of the providers are already partnered in this already. particularly to talk about this screening piece and how we can implement some type of screening on our end.
Thanks, Chris.
Maria and Amy, first, thank you so much. What a fantastic collaboration that's so much good. I'm more impressed every time I hear your presentation. One of the things that struck me was how young it seems that the folks are who are incurring their brain injury due to intimate partner violence. And I'm wondering how how does that match the relative age of, I know it's not just women, but people in general who are involved in that. Are the folks with brain injury younger, older, same?
Amy, I'm not sure if you'll be able to speak to this better than me. Just from what I can speak to on the domestic violence side, I think that younger age range that we see tends to have more kind of explosive behaviors going on, where obviously people can experience intimate partner violence across the lifetime. But in certain age populations, you might see more verbal abuse, more like controlling of things or isolation from service providers or family members, things like that. But in a particular age range, in the younger kind of age bracket, we see more strangling, physical fighting, hitting, slamming, someone's head against things, more of that like physical abuse going on. Obviously, again, that can happen at any age, but we tend to see more of that in that younger age range. And so obviously those are a lot of the behaviors that can lead to and cause brain injury, especially in this population. We see those things happening over and over and over again. So you are repeatedly being strangled, you're repeatedly having your head slammed against the wall, or in a combination of both. And so that those continuous behaviors are what can over time also cause brain injury. Amy, do you have more to that?
And Chris, if you were asking about were you asking about whether we saw more brain injuries because of domestic violence in the people we were screening?
Not necessarily, because I think you helped to show that as well. It was kind of more the question that Maria did answer, and that was related to the number of people with brain injury who seemed relatively young, and then that relates to what Maria was talking about in terms of the different kinds of abuse at ages. And again, I just have to say, we're just so lucky to have people with expertise as well as the passion that you guys bring to this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, and I just wanted to say too that I mean, I'm sure that many of you know this, but younger people take more risks. And so we see a lot of younger people who get brain injuries, but then we also see a lot of older people that get brain injuries as well due to falls. So, yeah.
Thanks. Next we have Victoria and then Elizabeth. And we're running a little short on time. So after Elizabeth's question, we'll pause and take a break. Go ahead, Victoria.
Hi, this is Victoria. I have two brief questions, but first I just wanted to comment on how well the presentation was completed. The study is amazing. It's one thing knowing that this is a crisis and a problem, but having those statistics that are so staggering really brings it to life. Through my advocacy work, I work with a domestic violence organization called the Phoenix Project. They're located in Front Royal, Virginia. So my question is, number one, could I share this presentation with the members at the Phoenix Project? And then number two, would it be possible for them to reach out to you about potential participation once your program goes statewide? Thank you.
Yes, so I believe that because this presentation is being recorded, it will be available for anyone in the public on the DARS YouTube channel. And so you can direct them towards that once this has been posted. I'm planning to do that with all the people we're currently partnered with, because I know that they are interested in seeing these results from year one of the project. And they are also welcome to reach out to us as well. And they can do it now if they would like to.
Yeah, that's what I was going to add. They don't necessarily need to wait. Funding may or may not be available to include additional projects, but we also provide any training and technical assistance. So it's possible they could get involved, relatively soon in one way or another.
Great question, Victoria. Okay, we have one more from Elizabeth.
Hi there, Elizabeth with the Disability Law Center. Thank you for that presentation. Two things. I wanted to bring to your attention the fact that the Disability Law Center of Virginia has recently obtained a grant around domestic violence and women with disabilities. And it seems like there may be some potential for collaboration there. And if I can reach out to you, Maria, or if you'd like to reach out to me, I could make sure that the people in charge of that grant connect with you. And secondly, we do a very robust information and referral service at the Law Center. And we, of course, hear from a lot of folks with brain injuries. I am the one who ends up with those calls. And so, in fact, I had a very tragic situation involving a woman with a brain injury who's called, and I was kind of at a loss of how to connect her. She was having very severe legal issues involving this. But just generally speaking, who do we refer to? What would be your first instinct for referral?
So referring her to get advocacy within the court system, or what are you trying to refer her for exactly?
Well, in this case, I think her legal recourse is over. But as we get calls, I'm just saying, generally speaking, in fact, in that case, I'm pretty sure I referred her over to the Brain Injury Association of Virginia, knowing that they had a heavy emphasis on this now. Can you think of other resources? And actually, she was already connected with the brain injury state funded provider. But is there a focal point or a clearinghouse or some kind of a what would be the one or two resources you would recommend to help link someone generally who's had a brain injury and is having domestic violence issues?
Yeah, oh, sorry, go ahead, Maria.
No, go ahead, Amy.
I was going to say referring to the Brain Injury Association of Virginia is a good starting place. And like you said, also referring to their local state-funded program for brain injury, because if they can get connected with case management there, they can get some help through that. And Maria, did you want to say anything else?
Yeah, I was just going to again speak to, another reason why this project is significant. There's so many, is that really up until this project, brain injury has been down its own path. Domestic violence has been down another path, and we see that in a lot of the fields that we work in, that they are in silos. And so what I really like about this project is that it is really bringing two sectors, two fields together, since we know that they overlap all the time. So unfortunately, there's still not necessarily one person that you might, or one place that you might be able to reach out to. You might have to get a few different folks involved, but reaching out to BIAV, the Action Alliance is a state coalition for sexual and domestic violence. They can always get people connected to their local sexual and domestic violence programs if that's the support that you're needing. But again, that's why we really want brain injury centers and domestic violence organizations to get involved in this project, so that if you're with either one, you will be able to provide support and direct connection for folks that need either type of resource.
Okay, thank you.
And we do have a resource available to everyone on our website in our resource library under quick guides. And it is about this intersection between brain injury and domestic violence. And it gives some information about who you can contact. The Action Alliance is on there. And we are currently working on getting a full page on our website about what people can do and where they can reach out for help. So hopefully that will be up soon.
Thank you.
Yeah. And just to wrap up, I know we're short on time, but any folks on the call, we are really looking to get this message out or to come talk to your staff or community, to do some more extended training. You saw a very brief version today. So if you are interested in us bringing this kind of message or training to your folks, please reach out to Amy and I, and we'd be happy to set something up.
We may actually be clogging your inboxes because there's just so many opportunities for rich connection and collaboration. And I appreciate not just the content of what you're doing, but your approach. I mean, you both just exude collaborative, participatory, open and inclusive spirits. And I want to just share my appreciation for all the work you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
We are going to go ahead and take a 10-minute break, and that will be, we'll come back at about 2:40. So we'll see you all then. Okay, please begin to make your way back. We'll be getting started shortly. Okay, welcome back. Welcome back from break. Okay.
Kara,
Yes.
can I say something really quickly?
Of
I
course.
got 50,000 messages in my inbox when I went there during break to see when everyone's concerned about the links. If you have people or colleagues that you work with who were trying to sign on to the live stream that is not live streaming right now, please let them know that we're going to post the recording as soon as we can after this meeting is over. We just had technical difficulty and we couldn't get it to load. And so I'm still responding to some of the emails I got, but if you have colleagues that you know we're trying to get on, please let them know that we're going to be posting it as soon as possible after the meeting is over. Thank you.
Thank you. I see that Gail has her hand up. Gail?
I didn't want to not follow appropriate protocol, so I just wanted to let Donna and you all know that in about 20 minutes or so, I'm going to have to switch formats and jump on my phone because with the snow, daycare is closing early and I'm backup daycare provider today. So I'll be on my phone. So if there's a roll call vote and you don't hear from me, that would be why.
Okay, thank you, Gail.
I'll be more listening.
Thank you. All right, so we are now on a discussion of council member professional development. And I wanted just to give everyone an update in terms of where we are with this. So in our October meeting, as Barbara reminded us of a little bit earlier in today's meeting, we discussed future plans for an upcoming professional development related to the topic of neurobehavioral. And council members had identified 2 content-related outcomes. So you wanted to know and understand what is meant by the term, what behaviors are associated, and what systems are needed to address neurobehavioral issues. And then you also wanted to make sure you heard personal perspectives, both from individuals with lived experience, from caregivers, from family members, et cetera. We also heard a need for the presentation to be engaging and interactive with kind of a blend of academic content, but also those personal narratives and those personal experiences. And then finally, and this goes back to Barbara's point earlier, we talked about making sure that there are resources and materials and accessible resources and materials that are available before and after these sorts of professional development settings. And that's especially important because we're all at different places with regard to neurobehavioral. We have some researchers and medical providers here who have really sophisticated understandings. We have persons with lived experience who have children with neurobehavioral presentation. We have some folks for whom that term is brand new. So we want to be really respectful of where everyone is. So this is a challenge and it's also an opportunity. So with these factors in mind, the executive committee met on January 11th. And what we did was we spent about an hour brainstorming a structure. And so our idea is to have a series of presentations that revolve around neurobehavioral, starting with the April meeting. So what you can anticipate with the April meeting is to receive some materials in the form of a read ahead or a watch ahead before the meeting. And that'll come out to you all with everything else that comes out to you before the meeting. And then in that meeting, we are planning an interactive panel of individuals who will be talking from different vantage points and perspectives. So we're in the process of preparing that now. And then depending on what some of the issues and questions are that emerge from that April meeting, we'll make plans to then kind of take a deeper dive in January. So it might be, for instance, that we take a deeper dive into community-based supports for neurobehavioral or housing for persons with neurobehavioral. We're not so sure yet. We're going to allow that to sort of emerge. Chris, Donna, or members of the executive committee, is there anything else that you would add from our conversation that might just offer a little preview? It's kind of like a trailer for what to expect in April.
Chris, I would just add, I really appreciate the time that the executive committee really spent kind of hashing over and debating this issue and deciding that it was best to break it down into a series of 3 to 4 presentations and opportunities rather than just one big dumping a bunch of information, and then trying to be responsive to the feedback and the questions that you all ask or discuss to help drive where that goes. So please do offer your feedback to the committee, because they're trying to be really responsive to what you need and want.
And anyone else from the executive committee that has anything else to add? Kara, Sandy?
I'll just pipe in and just say thank you so much for being present. And I'm also going to apologize and disclose today that I'm actually dealing with COVID, and my 2 little ones have COVID. They tested positive. Let me back up. But they seem to have a lot of energy. So if I seem distracted, my apologies. I just, want to say that, Kara, exactly what you were saying, hits home. We talked a lot about this, got a lot of different perspectives and views, and I'm really excited to open up this professional development that we'll be doing.
Yeah, hey, Kara, I mean, you guys hit the nail on the head with what we've been talking about with this topic, and just from my personal experience, I guess the epiphany in the last executive council meeting that I had was just coming from a concussion world, was trying to see how neurobehavioral was relevant to my world, and I had been missing the boat on that for so long because I didn't really have a great understanding of what neurobehavioral meant. And so one of the things I appreciated in our conversations was finally having the light bulb go off of how neurobehavioral affects kind of every severity of TBI, and hoping to bring that to the council as well. And I think that we also, now that the light bulb went off, just hearing the public comments today really just reiterated that point to me, and how it kind of rocks my world as well. And what I'm living in, and kind of the individuals and the children that I deal with on a daily basis. So I think that's just from my personal experience in the executive council meeting, and what I hope we can give to the entire group.
Thank you. All right, so that's, again, something to look forward to for our next time together. Our next order of business is going to be an update from the Membership and Structure Committee that is led by Kelly Lang. Kelly?
Thanks, Kara. So I'm in the committee that has been tasked with the job to bring the council in the next 5 years up to have 50% membership of people with lived experience. So we've met twice, the committee, once in December and once in January, although the January meeting seems like it was so long ago since it was the first week of January. And we've been tossing around ideas of how we can restructure this group so that we can, meet that ACL goal of 50% of people with lived experience. And in that, we've decided we're going to be, Chris and Donna, and with the great help of Kara, have developed a survey where we're going to be asking each of you some questions on how you feel about one of our proposals. And that should be going out very soon, hopefully next week maybe. And we're going to ask that you reply as soon as you can, but take time to think about it and, get your thoughts together, because we want the most genuine responses for us to then work through and come up with a plan. And in addition to that, we were also, another email will go out about whether anyone in this group who has not previously disclosed that they're a person with lived experience, if they would be willing to disclose that and that would also help to bring up to 50%. And that includes, because one of the conversations included, does that include concussions? And yes, of course, a concussion is a brain injury. And then, there's plenty of people on here who have had concussions or have had, experience with it. So that is considered someone with lived experience. So look forward to receiving all that from us. And we hopefully will have something even bigger to report back in April. Thank you.
And Kelly, thank you for your leadership of that committee. I want to tell the group that survey will be going out to you at 4:15 today. So if you want to use your snowy evening to look at it and think about it, and we're hoping that you'll return it within 2 weeks. And Kelly, I have to echo your thanks to Kara M. as well for her mad skills in developing surveys.
Thank you, Kelly. Your leadership of this committee has been really, really extraordinary. We very much appreciate all of the work that you've done behind the scenes of even the meetings that we've had. So thank you. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on. It says in the agenda that we'll have another break right now, but those two items actually went by pretty quickly. So we're going to move on to the business of approving the slate of nominees, or potentially approving the slate of nominees to the council. And Susan Moon will facilitate this agenda item. Susan?
Yeah, hi, everybody. Well, I'm going to try, and I'm going to lean on Donna to give me a hand here. And so in our introductions today, I did introduce that I serve the council in the role of chair for the nominations committee for membership. And so my first order of business is to thank the committee. I want to thank Victoria Newman, who you actually heard from here today. Maria Stransky, I hope I said that right. Christine Miller, and of course I've already told Donna she's going to help me, and Donna for keeping us all on track and organized. So in our last meeting in October, we did review with everyone the nominations process. We're not going to do that again today. We have a single focus for today, but it is important to remember that this body, the council, puts forth nominations to the commissioner, who actually then makes the appointments to this council. And so the slot that we need to fill, and I am going to just read this out loud for those of you who are listening. The slot we need to fill is for an individual who is not an employee or a current member of the board of directors of an organization that receives state general funds that are appropriated through the Department of Aging and Rehabilitative Services for brain injury services. And so that's sort of our mandate, to find someone that will fill that spot. So we actually did have 2 nominations, which is, it's always great to have more than one, right? We'd like to have lots of nominations to read. And so we had 2 nominations. The committee did meet twice to kind of talk about the process, characteristics and things the council might need, try to make this a well-rounded kind of discussion and process. So we considered the needs of the council, and we primarily focused on maintaining and continuing its expansion around diversity in membership, which is always the focus for the council members. And so the individual who currently serves in this role, in this particular slot, John Reynolds, he is eligible to serve a second term. And so John has stated that he is willing to serve the council for another term. To cut to the chase, and then I'll explain, the committee did decide to recommend to all of you on the council that we nominate John for this second term. Now remember, I said we did have another nomination, so I want to try to explain a little how we got to making the recommendation for all of you. So John lives in Northern Virginia, which expands the council's geographic diversity. Virginia is a massively huge state, and so we pay particular attention to not having all of us come from Richmond and the surrounding area. John identifies as male, which contributes to the council maintaining gender diversity, which, you know, in healthcare, we tend to have an abundance of women. So we do look to keep gender diversity as an important factor. John's an educator and an athletic trainer, and so he's a special education professional and a trainer with expertise around concussions. Interesting today, at least one, if not two of our public comments did focus and talk about concussion. So it continues to be an area of great need, and that expertise can be valuable to our discussions here. The other piece of the discussion the committee had was around allowing the council to age a bit, we called it. So what does that mean, age a bit? We have had two people today mention that the council is going to be moving its membership to be 50% survivor membership. And so Jason Young and Kelly Lang have both mentioned that today. And so we're going to have a big change in membership over the next year. And so the nominations committee actually tried to think about that and think that allowing and recommending that John Reynolds continue his into a second term would provide, well, I'll use the word stability, but aging to get through this transition. We thought that was an important factor and something that we thought we would consider. All of that being said, I don't want to at all downplay the nomination we received. We did have a second nomination, a wonderful woman out of the Richmond area, Central Virginia, identifies as female, is a healthcare professional. It's going to be doing some great grant work around and including people with traumatic brain injuries, survivors, and so there's a lot of excitement around that nomination. So I don't want to downplay our other nomination at all, but for considerations around diversity and allowing the council to grow to a greater membership of survivors, we thought we would take and nominate John to continue for one more term in order to let that all occur. I'd like to invite any other members of our committee to offer any additional thoughts, or Donna, Christine, Maria, Victoria. Hopefully I've done our discussion well and put this nomination, the consideration of this nomination, forth to the council. I don't hear any questions. Anybody have questions? There's a lot. There were a lot of words there. Okay, then I think we would need to have a nomination from the council to accept the recommendations of the nominations committee, to put John Reynolds forth to the commissioner to fill this slot and complete a second term. Is that correct?
Yeah, so what we need
executive team, Kara,
motion. We need someone to motion to approve the slate of nominees.
Slate of one.
I can make that motion to approve slate of nominees.
Okay, I'll second that.
Thank you, Mike. Mike Puglia makes the motion and Kara Beatty the second. Does this require a roll call vote for Kara to call the roll?
It
Donna
does.
saying yes. Okay, then
Yeah.
I will send this over to you, Kara.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing that I did before. Once again, when I call your name, please unmute yourself and indicate a yay, a nay, or abstain. Monique W.
Yay.
Mike P.
Yay.
Kara B.
Yay.
Tim W.
Yay.
Jason Y.
Yay.
Sandy P.
Yay.
Kelly L.
Yay.
John R.
I'm not exactly sure what I should do in this situation.
You can abstain.
I'm assuming I should abstain. Yes. Okay.
Amber W.
Yay.
Cynthia J.
Yay.
Nick R.
Yay.
Victoria N.
Yay.
Patrick S.
Yay.
Maria A.
Yay.
Gail B. Okay, Gail's
Yay.
transitioning. No, she's here.
That was a yay.
That was a yay. Okay. Elizabeth H.
Yay.
Deborah J.
Yay.
Amal K.
I'm going to let Ron vote this time. So,
Ron.
Tag team, yay.
Kevin K.
Yay.
Chris M.
Yay.
Susan M.
Yay.
Mark M.
Yay.
Maria S.
Yay.
Barbara S.
Yay.
George W.
Yay.
Okay, circling back up, is Erica L here?
No, she's not here.
How about Terry M?
No.
And my vote is a yay. The vote carries. All right. Anything else with regard to that order of business, Donna?
Now that the slate has been approved, I will draft a letter for your signature from the council. And then we will submit it to the commissioner asking her to reappoint John to a second term, which would be effective at the April meeting.
Excellent. So pre-congratulations to John Reynolds. And thank you so much to Susan for chairing the committee and for all of the individuals that she acknowledged as contributors. I really appreciate the depth with which you approach this task and the consideration that you gave to the other nominee. One thing I always share with folks is try again. I didn't make it onto the council my first go around, so sometimes it just takes a little bit of time. So before I move on to the next order of business, I want to sort of preview or let you know where we're going, because there are 3 agenda items that involve appointing council members to committees or work groups. So you might want to sort of be thinking a little bit about this in your mind before you volunteer too prematurely. So it might be that, you know, you volunteer for the first one, but then you realize you really wanted to wait for the last one. So the 3 calls for nominations are going to be for the Bylaws Committee, the Priorities Committee, that's the committee that writes the annual priority letter that goes to the commissioner. And then number 3, the Housing Work Group. And you received information about the housing work group to your inbox, but we are going to talk more about these. Something else just to keep in mind is that the bylaws suggest, but don't mandate, but suggest that all members serve on at least one committee. So, try to think about what committee you're on or not on. So if you're not currently on a committee, this could be a great opportunity. So we'll invite you to self-nominate for these really important roles. So we'll begin with appointing the Bylaws Committee. And this committee will be charged with updating the existing council bylaws with several key changes that reflect our priorities and our operating protocols. As secretary, Kara Beatty will chair this committee. And I am calling for two or four volunteers to serve in the role, because we really like to have an odd number, for voting purposes. So please use the hand raising icon to indicate your interest in serving. All right, I think I saw Victoria Newman is interested in joining Kara. Okay. Is there another person who would like to join Victoria and Kara? John Reynolds.
Well, Kara, I will ask, because I think I was on this committee, but given the tenuous nature of my membership, perhaps I'm happy to continue as a member of the committee, assuming things go in my favor.
I'm happy to appoint you to that committee. Okay. All right, I don't see any other hands jumping at this opportunity. Oh, maybe we have one. Monique, would you like to be on, or you have a question?
Just if somebody else is also interested in being on. I couldn't find the little thingy fast enough. But
okay.
So if there's someone else, so it's not uneven, otherwise I will find another home.
Chris, are you nominating yourself?
Yes, and typically I get to sit on every committee, so feel free to just count me in.
All right, excellent. So Secretary Kara Beatty, you now have a full committee that has officially been appointed, and that committee consists of Victoria, John, Monique, and Chris.
Wonderful, thank you. Thanks.
Awesome.
And
Kara,
John,
Kara,
appreciate that.
Following this meeting, I'll get with you and we'll start setting up the first meeting of this group, and I'll take care of all logistics.
Wonderful, thank you so much. I appreciate it very much. I'm sorry, I have a toddler over here that I don't know, like I said, I don't know if this COVID is causing an increase in energy or if it's just the age, but we're all over the place. So sorry about that.
That's okay. I saw lots of smiling faces, so that momentary interruption actually caused a little levity in the room. So thank you. Okay. Our next committee to have individuals select into is the Priorities Committee. And this committee will be charged with writing the formal priorities letter to the Commissioner of DARS that details the areas and topics that council would like DARS to prioritize. And you all might remember that Jason chaired the last Priorities Committee, and the work of that committee has been vital in the development of housing-related recommendations and the housing work group, which we're going to talk about next. So these committees really put together some very critical issues that the commissioner and Department of Aging and Rehab Services in general take very seriously. So incredibly important committee to serve on. So again, we're calling for 3 to 4 volunteers to serve in this role. One volunteer would need to be a survivor, at least one of whom needs to be a survivor. please use the hand raising icon to indicate your interest in serving. Okay, we have Sandy, Gail, Jason, Barbara, Cindy, Amber, and Amal. All right. And I believe I can appoint everyone, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all 7. Is that correct, Donna? We're not limited to a certain number.
You can, but you don't have a survivor in the mix.
Okay. So Amal has taken his hand down. Nope.
Oh, I was lowering your hands. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Kara, as you're looking at that, I would caution how many providers are in, making sure we have a nice mix. And if you need me to drop out, I can do that. I don't really count as a provider, but and I'm going to try to switch venues here. So
okay,
you might have to tell me what you decided in my switching.
So I want to just make sure I have a sense, because the hands are going up and down, so I've lost a sense of.
This is Ron. I just had a quick question. I've sort of heard the term survivor and lived experience almost used interchangeably, and I view them very differently. So is the requirement for survivor or for lived experience?
Chris, would you address that question?
Someone who has had a brain injury. Someone with a brain injury.
Okay.
Donna, would you concur with that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So if you could again just raise your hand again to indicate your desire to be on this particular committee, just so that I can track everyone again. Okay.
Kara, if there is no limit, then I'm throwing my hand in here too.
Okay. So I have Jason.
Are you putting your hand up as Anne, because you're not actually a member of council?
Well, Anne told me earlier to volunteer as myself, but I guess maybe that was, she was presuming she was getting too far ahead of herself.
Jason. Okay.
And this is Cindy. If there are too many, I can do something different.
Okay.
I don't think Kara's saying that the issue is too many. It's just, and the committee can also convene and invite someone, but we need a survivor or someone with a brain injury to consider joining this committee as well.
Okay, Patrick. Patrick is willing to serve in that role. Okay. So Sandy, you're interested. Is that correct? I see you nodding. All right.
Yes.
Gail has transitioned to phone, but she's interested. Jason is interested. Barbara is interested. Is that correct? Okay. Amber is interested. Yeah.
Yes.
Cindy is still interested.
Yes.
Amal, are you still interested?
If there is a room.
There's room, okay. And Patrick? All right, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 8 individuals.
Want to add Tim or Ann?
I don't know that I can, as you had stated, I don't know that I can add Tim unless he takes over for Anne on the council, or they split the role, right?
Right now, Ann is the representative of BIAV, so Tim cannot be on the committee.
Okay, yeah. And I'm not sure I can appoint Anne without her being here. So this is a group of 8. We're still teetering a little bit, as Gail brought up, is cautioning too many providers. I think we're about half and half, if I'm correct. So it's half providers and half individuals who have other roles on the council. But that is an even number.
When you're using the term providers, I'm not sure, are we talking, because there's one brain injury services provider on there.
I think providers, agencies, organizations. I don't know, I don't want to speak for Gail.
It's Gail. I realize my video is off, but I think that's most appropriate for where I'm at. But what I was just meaning was, I wanted to be sure that we just had a nice, diverse mix of representation. That's all I was looking for.
Gotcha.
If I need to step off as an agency representative, if there's too much other, then I'm willing to do that to give somebody else an opportunity to. I've been on that committee several times, but don't mind doing it again if necessary.
Is there anyone else that would like to self-nominate, or is there anyone who would like to nominate another individual based on just increasing representation and voice?
Kara, this is Susan Moon. I'm happy to join them, but I was also thinking that the nominations committee is not always the most popular, and I could just stay in that role because there's going to be a lot of changes. So I'm not really hesitant to volunteer, knowing that there's other committees that are yet to come.
Okay.
I think it would be good if we had some more representation from survivors.
And I kind of think with this being like the priorities committee, I know the Brain Injury Association of Virginia plays a big role in our advocacy operations and putting that forward. And I know there's some issue with Anne not being here and Tim being her proxy, I think, today. But I think it would be important to have the Brain Injury Association of Virginia represented on that committee.
Yeah, and Anna and I had to cover a lot of information this morning, and she's not feeling well. So I may have also just misunderstood her. Maybe she did want me to volunteer her for that role.
Are we able just to, can we appoint her without her? Yeah, okay.
Kara, this is Susan Moon again. I mean, I'm happy to serve both of those committees. It may be that bringing back to the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services any ideas or questions or concerns of the Priorities Committee might be valuable. As I serve in that liaison role, and I certainly will serve this committee in that role.
Okay. So, I mean, I thank you. I appreciate this, Susan. I acknowledge I'm not so sure what to do because I don't think we've ever had a situation where we've had 10 or 11 people interested in self-selecting. So this is a great challenge to have. If Susan joins,
Kara,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We'd have 10 if Susan joins.
Kara, it's Gail. I can't raise my hand. Sorry, not for what I'm doing. So I'm just interrupting. I apologize. I think the most I've ever seen, now I didn't serve on it for a couple of years, but was 3 or 4. And so this is starting to seem like a significant amount. of people. That's just my opinion. Trying to get that many people to come around priorities is just, do we have a range that is recommended?
I don't think we do.
This is Barbara. I agree. I think you get too many people on there, then it could be more challenging. It's great that everybody's interested because it's a very significant impact that we're trying to do. So, I mean, I don't mind stepping down if we want to reduce the size.
So this is Susan again. I agree with Barbara, but I would keep Barbara. There's history here that's really important. And I think many of us know that Barbara does have a great fund of knowledge on the history. I mean, I think the committee can have resources, and I can just be an external resource as a connection to DBHDS. I don't need to be a participating or voting member of the committee and making a decision. I just thought it was important because there is collaborative work to be done and being done. So I think the committee could just have me as a resource.
Okay. Monique?
Thanks. But it's at this point been said. I was just going to say I did feel that it was maybe too many people, and even just coordinating times to meet might be difficult. But that I was wondering if there could be almost like people that might be willing to step down but serve as consults on that, so they can still maybe be. I don't know if that's a possibility. So I'm deferring to Chris and Donna here, if that's a thing that people could be involved but not able to. You get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot to that. One of the things that I'm very struck by, and impressed with, is that there are a number of new people have stepped up to this committee. Jason provides a lot of nice continuity from the previous group to this group. I will say that Anne has, while Anne is a great resource and BIAV is an important agency, Anne has served on the priority committee for most of the years except for last year. So that is a place where I might ask Anne and would be willing to reach out to her to ask her whether or not she would also willing to serve as an advisor or a consultant to the group as needed.
Okay. All right. Something I'm going to suggest, because I'm a little puzzled. I'm going to suggest we actually move on to the next order of business and then circle back, because deciding who's on the housing work group might help us figure out the priorities piece. Because the housing work group is actually it's kind of it's like a tentacle of our priorities. So it could be that some of the people who just self-nominated for the priorities would be better serving the council on the housing work group. So let's kind of pause this and we'll come back to it. So let me see, could you bring up, Donna, could you bring up the housing work group? Let me also pull it up as well. Responsibilities. And I'm going to just skim through some of this because we have some folks that are joining us by telephone and can't see this. I'll read through some of the housing work group responsibilities. So this is a work group to study and report back information related to our recommendations on housing as those relate to individuals living with brain injury. This work group will deliver an interim report to the Virginia Brain Injury Council by July 2022, with a final report of policy recommendations by April 2023. And by way of reminder, the work of this group came directly from the 2021 priority letter to Commissioner Hayfield, and Commissioner Hayfield addressed us at the October meeting concerning this very issue. The end goal of this work group is, as I said, to make recommendations to the council that will ensure individuals with brain injury are considered when housing discussions and decisions are being made, and developing community resources on how to better access those housing resources throughout the state. In terms of work group membership, we want to make sure that we have at least 2 individuals living with brain injury who are members of the group, at least 1 individual who is a caregiver or family member of a person with brain injury, and then other recommended work group members to include BIAV, the Alliance, DARS leadership, etc. There will be multiple meetings of the work group between now and July 2022. The work group will also explore existing issues on housing, hear from outside experts, and educate themselves on available options, accessibility, and partnerships. So this is another very important leadership opportunity, and one that will involve interface with multiple sectors and areas. So first, what I'd like to do is to call for 2 individuals with brain injury to serve as survivor members. The first is Victoria. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you, thank you. Kelly, I see that you're clapping, but I don't know if that's because your hand is raised. Can you unmute?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It was supposed to be a hand raise.
Your hand raising. Okay, fantastic. All right, Kelly would like to join. Are there any other survivor members who might like to join?
This is Monique. I'm just noticing my hand is still up. I just don't want to cause confusion.
Oh, okay, your hand is up. All right, I thought it was still up from before.
No, it still is up from before. I didn't know. I guess I don't know how to. Last time when I hit it again, it just put it back up. Okay, it's gone now.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, moving on to an individual who is a caregiver or family member. Okay, Sandy, thank you.
You're welcome. And I just wanted to pop in and say, this is Sandy. I was on the last priorities committee, and I did raise my hand to be on this priorities committee, but I'm more interested in the, as you know, the housing tentacle, as you put it. So I'd be happy to drop from priorities and just represent on the housing work group if that works out in the best interest of the committee.
Right, thank you. We know this is an area of great passion for you, so I'm glad that you are self-nominating. Okay, so we have 3 members. It would be fantastic to have 2 additional members who would represent BIAV, the Alliance, DARS leadership, BISCU, Brain Injury Services Coordination Unit, right?
Yeah, that's us. So Chris will probably be on this because Chris serves on all of them. And
Right.
I believe Marcia Dubois, our deputy commissioner, also wanted to be on this work group.
Okay. So Chris, you can or can't be voting, right? You could be a member or a voting member. Okay.
She's voting.
She's voting.
Mhm.
Okay, so Chris is going to be on the committee. Marcia would not be a voting member, correct?
That is correct. And yes, I would like to be on.
Okay. All right.
So Jason, this is a place where you and Ann would represent in your roles.
Yeah, I was kind of
Is that
waiting
right?
that. I mean, yeah, we're specifically mentioned in there, so I'm happy to serve as the representative of the Alliance of Brain Injury Service Providers.
Okay. So our members are Victoria, Kelly, Sandy, Chris in the role of Brain Injury Services, Maria for the Department of Aging and Rehabilitative Services, Jason on behalf of the Alliance, and Anne on behalf of BIAB. All right.
Sounds-
If there is anyone else with a burning passion around housing, they could also join. That was kind of like the minimum. So if there's someone else that has an interest in this topic, they could also join.
Does anyone else have a burning interest? Elizabeth?
And knowing what the workload would be like.
Okay. All right. We're probably less concerned about whether this is an odd or even number because this is a work group versus a committee that's going to be voting to pass things. At present, though, we are at 8 people, which is going to make scheduling a little bit more difficult. I just want to make sure that folks are recognizing that. And when Donna goes to schedule it, if you could just make yourself as available, share as much of your availability as you can. Sometimes it takes Donna a couple of weeks to resolve these doodle polls and get everybody on board. So just want to put out our grateful appreciation to you, Donna, for all of that work. Okay, let's go ahead and now we're going to circle back to this priorities committee. And we have a little bit of resolution here in that Sandy has selected out or is willing to select out. So this would potentially leave us 1, 2, 3. Let's see, what do you have, Donna? It's changed a few times.
It has changed a few times.
You want me to read mine, Donna?
Please
I
do.
have Patrick, Barbara, Jason, Gail, Amal, Amber, and now I can't read my own handwriting. Cindy and myself.
And so did you take Susan off?
I did. I took Susan and Ann off as kind of advisors or consultants as needed.
That's 8 people. Is anybody interested in selecting out? Nick, you're indicating interest. Good.
This is Sandy. Did you select me out?
I did.
Okay.
All right, so is Nick coming on board?
Nick's coming on board.
So
And I'm asking if anyone would be interested in opting out to just pull them, pull them.
Yeah,
down a little bit.
I'm okay with doing that. I know what Susan said, but I've been on it. I can be a resource or whatever, like she and Anne and Susan are talking about. If you want to do that.
Yeah, and something to keep in mind is that we have an opportunity as a council to review this letter. I think at least 1 time, perhaps 2 times. So
Right.
There's opportunity for input. And I know that when I was on the priorities committee years ago, when we were developing some of our priorities, we reached out to different people on the
Right, we did.
council
Yeah.
to get input. So note that as well.
Okay.
And I'm happy to back out and just be ready to serve on another committee when there's another opportunity.
Okay. That brings us down to 7. Is that reasonable?
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it is. I can make it work.
Okay. All right, so I'm pleased to appoint Patrick, Nick, Jason, Gail, Amal, Amber, and Chris. And thank you all for bearing with the complication of figuring out, what do we do when we have so much member engagement? This is great. I've been on the council for a long time, and I don't think I've ever seen something quite like this before. Long may it continue, and we'll have to figure out ways to sort through it. It is about 3:35, and we do have one update. What I'm wondering, Donna, is if we need to take a 5-minute break before that update, just to give people a chance to decompress.
Oh, I didn't know if I had my speaker on. We would have time to do that. The only thing we have left is the legislative update and then adjourn protocol.
Let's do that. There's been a lot of discussion and sort of hefty information. So let's go ahead and take a 5-minute break. That'll bring us back so let's go ahead and come back at 3:41. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Hope that was just a good little brain break. Our final agenda item is the 2022 legislative update. And originally, Anne was going to facilitate this with Chris Miller, but I believe that Jason is going to facilitate this with Chris at this point. So I will turn it over to them.
Jason and Tim are going to kick things off with the BIAV legislative items.
Thanks,
Tim,
Chris.
why don't you go ahead and start and I'll fill in any details.
Okay. Sorry, Chris, did you say you wanted to start? You cut out a little bit there.
Nope, you go ahead, Tim.
Okay. So I'm actually going to share my screen just so I can I share my screen? Is that okay?
No, I have to do it. I've got two legislative briefs I can pull up for you, the housing one and the case management one.
Yeah, whichever you got first, we'll go in that order.
Okay, here's one. Targeted case management.
So Delegate Emily Brewer and Senator Mason have sponsored this budget amendment for $570,000 that would expand specialized community-based brain injury case management services into unserved areas. That would specifically be funding services to 100 children and families in the Shenandoah Valley and the southeastern Tidewater regions of the state, as well as adult case managers in Rappahannock County, Middle Peninsula and Middle Neck regions of the state, or excuse me, Middle Peninsula and Northern Neck regions of the state. This and the other budget amendment that we'll talk about are still up for discussion, so we are in a wait and see moment with the General Assembly. We can probably, I'll summarize the next one and then I'll circle back to my ask for everybody. So this next one would fund $1,125,000 to create a housing specialist position at each state-funded community-based brain injury program. There's been a number of calls for better case management services for housing, just even in this meeting and in the testimonies we heard at the top. So it's great to see some movement here. So this would specifically fund a position at the 9 state-funded community-based brain injury programs to provide case management services to help people get located into housing. Ensure that housing is accessible and affordable. So my ask for everybody is that we're in the middle of a phone a friend campaign. And if I drop something in the chat, will that go into the recording as well?
Yes.
So there's a link there that will take you to our advocacy page and give you instructions on our phone a friend campaign, which essentially is gonna.
I think you dropped that to me directly.
Thank you.
Right.
So,
okay.
You know, depending on if any of these bills are of interest to you and your stakeholders and your priority areas, we'd love to have you get in touch with some of your local representatives or the finance committee. So the Phone a Friend campaign will give you some instructions and links to some materials that you can use if you want to engage in that way. And we certainly appreciate any support that people are willing to give. The other thing I can offer is that if anyone wants any specific communication support, I'd be happy to help facilitate that. Just get in touch with either me or if you're more comfortable, Anne, and we'll get you in touch with Sophie, our communications manager, who is helping to coordinate all of this. And she'll be a great resource for anybody that needs some extra help. That's it from our end, Chris. Oh, I guess I should defer. Jason, do you have any color commentary you'd like to add since you've been down in the General Assembly?
Yeah, thanks, Tim. Actually, I haven't been, but we are going down next week to meet with legislators, particularly those on Senate Finance and House Appropriations, who will be deciding this. And our provider network is geared up for Brain Injury Awareness Day, which we're doing virtually through the Phone a Friend thing, which is on Tuesday, February 1st. And just the other thing I'll mention is, this was an agenda that was developed over the summer with lots of consult from different folks. And over the fall, we've met with, when I say we, the provider network and BIV have collectively met with, and has a firm count of it, I don't know how many it is, but it has to be 40 or 50 legislators to go over these asks with them, to obviously get patrons for it and just to educate them on why they are needed. So there's lots of folks down with our elected officials that are highly educated on this, because we are very diligent about educating them off session. And now our job during session is just to remind them of the importance of this, and specifically to remind the individuals who are going to be voting on the state budget of their importance as well. But otherwise, Tim, you did a great job.
Thanks, Jason.
So in addition, this is Chris Miller. In addition to the BIAV and Alliance legislative agenda, we wanted to make you aware of two other bills that are also working their way through the General Assembly that we just, well, I'll just finish that way. One is that with advocacy effort through the Disability Law Center of Virginia, DLCV, of which Elizabeth, one of our council members, is employed. There's a bill that for targeted case management for brain injury. This targeted case sorry, I got to gather my thoughts here. That 5-minute break was clearly not enough for me. So Virginia allows, all right, I'm just totally restarting. I apologize. So Barbara, if I keep stumbling, you just jump in there and talk your Medicaid magic. So states are required to have certain services under their Medicaid programs, but they're also allowed to add some optional services. And they do this through what's called a state plan amendment. Case management is one of those, and Virginia has added case management for groups like people with mental illness, pregnant women, and some other groups. It's referred to as targeted case management because it focuses on a targeted population. Although one of the rules of adding a targeted case management population is that everyone who meets financial and programmatic eligibility has to get access to services. So it would be statewide. Delegate Hope has submitted a bill that would amend Virginia's state plan to provide targeted case management for individuals with severe brain injury in Virginia. It actually just this week passed the Health and Welfare Committee and is on its way to appropriation. And I believe there's also a budget amendment on the Senate side that would provide some funding for this. When you bill for Medicaid for a service, 50% of the funding for that comes from the federal government for the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services, or CMS. The other half has to be provided by the state. So this bill is asking for about $1.8 million to act as the match to draw down an equal amount of funding from the federal government. So that is something that is on the docket. Jason and Ann have worked with the Disability Law Center around understanding this and the ramifications, and talking about it with the provider network as well. The other legislation that is also out there right now and is sponsored by Senator Hanger is to implement a brain injury waiver in Virginia. So This is a much, much bigger effort. It's something we just learned about relatively recently. And that would start with $250,000 in year one or state fiscal year 2023 to form a work group to look at that. And then to consider implementation of that in year two or state fiscal year 2024. Those are two big major pieces of legislation. And we didn't want you to get caught off guard and not be aware that those were working their way through along with the legislative agenda that's been approved by BIAV and the Alliance. So you can ask me questions. I don't know that I'm the subject matter expert that can answer those, but also if you have questions for Jason and Tim or any comments, we'd love to hear them.
Hi, this is Sandy. I have a question for Tim. Those two reports that he put up he shared on the screen there. Is there any way I couldn't really read them on my phone. Is there any way I could get those emailed to me?
Sandy, I think I sent those out yesterday. Did you get the handouts from me yesterday?
I got quite a few and I've got them all open here, but I didn't see that one, but maybe I'm just not seeing it correctly.
I think it was sent as a second email from Donna.
Okay.
It said
All right,
two
well,
more documents or something, so.
okay, well, thank you, but I don't see them. I don't see them. Got my email open.
The
right
answer is yes. If
Thank you.
between me or Donna, we can get it to you.
Yeah, if someone could, I was trying to read that first one and of course, I try to take everything in and as how it pertains to the situation I deal with every day. And the brain injury waiver sounds fabulous. And the things that I've heard over the last few days, but as far as some of the verbiage you're using with the bills and legislation and all that, I am having a hard time keeping up with all of what you're trying to explain. And maybe I should be excited, but maybe I shouldn't. So I need more clarification.
I think
something I'm wondering is if we could resend that. I think Jason, you and Ann did that workshop for us a couple of years ago. Could we resend some of the slides that kind of detail what a bill is, what an appropriation is? I just wonder if that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think Ann probably might have that one, and I'll just reference the link that Tim put up there. Has all of the budget amendments up there, and it really explains kind of what we're asking pretty well, and our strategies to make it successful. So it's all available on BIV's phone a friend link that he put up there too.
Okay, and yes, and I did want to add, I'm definitely going to participate in that and read over that, do whatever I can. And if there are any other committees or persons that would benefit from my testimony to help persuade them one way or another, please always volunteer me. I'd be willing to make any time available to discuss those issues.
Thank you, Sandy. I think the thing to be excited about is that there's a lot of people talking about brain injury right now at the Capitol. That's we're in wait and see mode regardless. Other than that, so any support that is appropriate for you and your relationship to the community would be excellent at this time.
Thank you.
This is Chris again. I just think the last thing that I want to say is, as always, thank you to all the advocates for the work that you do to make things better for people living with brain injury.
And Chris, I know Ann always mentions this, that as part of the Brain Injury Council, we encourage everyone to advocate on behalf of brain injury services, but to not, you can't do it, I believe, and someone can correct me, by saying you're a member of the council and that you're supporting it as a member of the council. But anyone's welcome to do it as a citizen of Virginia and an invested party in seeing this happen. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jason.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Tim and Jason and Chris, for that update. We are now moving into our closing protocol, and I'd like to call for a motion to close the meeting.
I'll motion.
Thank you, Deborah. How about a second?
I'll second.
And that was Barbara. Okay, the meeting has been adjourned, and our next meeting is on Friday, April 22nd, 2022. Hopefully we'll be back together again in Richmond for that meeting. Thank you all. Have a wonderful weekend.
Don't forget to look for your surveys and fill those out. We want to know what you think about membership.
That's right. 4:15 today. It's coming out.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye,
everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Great job.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kara.
All right. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you. Bye, Kara.
Bye.